Here are the top stories of the news. NDC national leader says party is under attack following court ruling voiding registration. President Tinubu signs National Identity Management Commission Act 2026 into law. On the foreign scene, more than 900 people killed in Venezuela earthquakes as rescuers search for survivors. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 with Western Spring Television. My name is Olufemi Alagbe. National leader of the Nigeria People Democratic Congress, NDC, Seriaki Dickson, says the party is under attack from external forces aggrieved by its rapid progress but will prevail. Senator Dickson was reacting to the judgment of the Federal High Court in Lokoja, Kogi State that set aside an earlier order directing the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to register the NDC as a political party. The court vacated its December 10, 2025 judgment compelling INEC to register the NDC as a political party. Delivering the ruling, Justice Isa Dashin held that the earlier judgment was delivered without hearing all necessary parties, rendering their proceedings constitutionally defective. The ruling followed an application by the Peace Movement Party, which argued that it ought to have been joined in the suit before the judgment was delivered. Senator Dickson described the court order as lacking legal merit and was aimed at undermining the party's progress. The NDC national chairman said the party had assembled a team of lawyers to challenge the ruling and urged members and supporters to remain calm. The former Bayelsa governor alleged that the application that led to the ruling was filed by an unregistered association, which, according to him, had no legal interests in the case. Here in Osho State, the governorship candidate of the Action Alliance AA in the August 15 governorship election, Lenre Farinloye, has condemned the rising wave of political violence in the state, describing the development as unfortunate and a threat to peaceful democratic participation. Speaking to journalists on issues surrounding the forthcoming election, Mr. Farinloye reaffirmed his commitment to peace and called on political actors, supporters, and stakeholders to shun violence and embrace issue-based campaigns. He stressed the need for an immediate end to all forms of political violence, intimidation, and destruction of property, noting that the safety of lives and property should remain the priority before, during, and after election. The AA candidate assured residents that if elected governor, he would place a high premium on the welfare and security of the people, adding that his administration will deploy modern technology to strengthen surveillance and improve security across the state. According to Mr. Farinloye, the use of technology-driven surveillance systems would assist security agencies in crime prevention, intelligence gathering, and the protection of communities. The Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Southwest, Adegoke Fayoade, has called on the Osho State Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Gordon, to collaborate with other security agencies and put an end to the recurring cases of extrajudicial killings in the state. Fayoade gave the directive at a meeting held at the Osho State Police Command headquarters in Oshogbo with heads of security organizations in the state. The meeting was also attended by the Osho State Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC, Oluwatoyin Babalola, the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in the state, representatives of the All Progressives Congress, and journalists. The ruling party in the state Accord, however, did not send representatives to the meeting convened by the visiting DIG. Addressing the gathering, Fayoade frowned at the reckless killings of suspected cultists in the state and charged the CP to identify the hideouts of those involved and bring them to justice. He said the rise in cult-related killings in the state was a spillover from similar incidents that occurred in 2022, adding that indiscriminate killings should not be allowed to continue. Osun State has experienced a surge in cult-related and politically motivated killings in recent times. In the meantime, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has described the death of Grace Osunlakin, a 400-level criminology and security studies student of Osun State University, Ifetedo campus, a painful and deeply heartbreaking. The management of the university also expressed concern over misleading narratives circulating on social media regarding the death of Osunlakin. Adeleke, in a condolence message signed by his spokesperson Olawale Rashid, extended condolences to the bereaved family, the governing council, management, staff, and students of Osun State University. He subsequently directed the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the university management, to immediately engage in a comprehensive review of healthcare service delivery across all university campuses. Meanwhile, the university's public relations officer Ademola Adesoji said the institution's preliminary findings showed that the deceased was not treated at the university's medical facility, contrary to claims circulating on social media. Osunlakin's death triggered protests in Ifetedo on Thursday, with students accusing the university of negligence in handling the health emergency. In other news, President Bola Tinubu has signed the National Identity Management Commission Act 2026 into law. The new act repeals the 2007 legislation strengthening Nigeria's legal framework for digital identity management, cybersecurity, and national security. Explaining the benefits of the legislation, Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji said the new law establishes a modern legal framework for identity management in line with global best practices, emerging technologies, and Nigeria's expanding digital economy. It also designates the NIMC as Nigeria's Food Certification Authority for the National Public Key Infrastructure and Digital Public Infrastructure. Senate President Godswill Akpabio described the legislation as a landmark framework that will improve national planning, infrastructure development, border management, and security. In our part, Director General of NIMC, Abisoye Koka Odusote, said the act establishes NIMC as the federal government's trusted digital identity authority with responsibility for secure authentication, encryption, digital signatures, and trusted electronic services.
Marks a defining moment in the history of identity management in Nigeria. Mr. President, your visionary leadership and unwavering commitment to digital transformation have once again positioned Nigeria for a future driven by innovation, trust, and inclusion. This landmark legislation is not just an amendment of an existing law. It is a bold leap into the future. For 19 years, the legal framework governing Nigeria's identity management system remained unchanged, while the digital landscape evolved rapidly. Today, that gap has been closed. Building on the NIMC Act of 2007, the NIMC Act 2026 establishes a modern legal framework that further strengthens the Nigerian digital public infrastructure, creating the foundation for trusted identity and seamless access to government and private sector services. It reinforces the national identification number as the cornerstone of identity verification and authentication across the country. The Act also introduces critical innovations that respond to the realities of today's digital world. It strengthens the protection of citizens' personal data, reinforces cybersecurity measures, provides the legal basis for a robust national public key infrastructure, and supports secure digital authentication, encryption, and digital signatures. These provisions will enhance trust in digital transactions and protect Nigerians in an increasingly connected economy.
In the meantime, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji says Nigeria's integrated identity management system led to the arrest of 7 suspected Boko Haram and ISWAP commanders returning from the 2026 Hajj pilgrimage. Tunji disclosed this at the Presidential Villa Abuja shortly after President Bola Tinubu signed the National Identity Management Commission Act 2026 into law. According to the minister, the suspects were arrested last Thursday at the Katsina airport after returning from Mecca and were subsequently handed over to the Department of State Services. He said the arrests were made possible through the integration of the National Identity Management Commission database with the Nigeria Immigration Service database and its connection to Interpol. So Jojo said the newly signed NIMC Act would further strengthen Nigeria's security architecture by accelerating the harmonization of identity database and improving interagency collaboration. According to him, the law will enhance the integrity of the national identity number system while boosting the country's capacity to combat identity theft, terrorism, financial crimes, and other security threats.
And let me say this clearly, that it has even helped our border control process. I know sometimes ago the Senate president said something on the floor of the Senate that some people went on pilgrimage, some terrorists and etc. That how did they cross our borders? Because what we inherited was a fractured system. But I'm happy to tell you that even last week, Thursday, 7 of the known commanders of Boko Haram and ISWAP, at the point of coming back, were arrested at in Katsina at the airport and were handed over to the DSS. And this is only possible because NIMC's ID is already connected with the immigration database, and it's already speaking to even the I-247, Interpol I-247, and we have been able to automate this. And with the new IOC that the Ministry of Interior has built, which is the first time in the history of Nigeria that will be having an integrated operating center managing our internal security processes, all our maritime and our air border system has been fully controlled. And that was evident last week. They thought it was business as usual when they will leave and come back, but they were picked right there and handed over to the DSS on Thursday. We had to airlift them to Abuja on Saturday and handed them. They're in custody as we speak. So nobody can come through. The land border, which is still a bit porous, we're already working on that. And with this new act, it has given us the necessary powers. It has given us the necessary tools to be able to do things. As they always say, there's no right way of doing what is illegal. If the law is not with you, no matter how good it is bad.
The Nigerian Army has announced a major reshuffle of its senior officers, with changes affecting key operational command, training, and staff appointments. According to a statement by its acting director of Army Public Relations, Colonel Apollonia Anele, the reshuffle is part of efforts to strengthen national security and improve operational effectiveness across the country. The statement added that the postings affected field commanders, school commandants, and principal staff officers at the Army headquarters. It noted that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, approved the strategic redeployment of senior officers, saying the move was aimed at enhancing Army's capacity to address emerging security challenges. In a move reflecting the Army's growing emphasis on technology and emerging security threats, Major General S.A. Samuel was appointed commander of the Nigerian Army Space Command. Major General O. Odegbe was also appointed Director of Intelligence and Security at Defense Headquarters. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.